Gen V Season 2 Episode 4 is about to shake things up in ways nobody's ready for. After the chaos in the first 3 episodes, it feels like every single character is standing at a breaking point caught between loyalty, manipulation, and the fight for survival. One of the clearest themes we've seen so far this season is division. From the very first episode, we watched how the Guardians of Godolkin were already split by secrets and lies. By episode 3, that divide turned into open conflict with Jordan stepping on stage, exposing the truth about Vought's lies, and calling out Godolkin's involvement in the attack on Kate. That speech didn't just cost Jordan their ranking, it put them on a collision course with Cipher and Vought. And in episode 4, I think we're going to see the fallout from that bold move play out in the most brutal way possible. Jordan's decision to go public was powerful, but it was also reckless. Their whole goal was to expose the truth, but the Guardians aren't unified. Murray and Emma want to play the long game, chipping away at Vought's lies carefully. Jordan chose the short game, expose it all at once, and that move is going to leave them isolated. What's worse, Cipher knows how to exploit fractures like this. He doesn't need to destroy the Guardians with brute force. All he has to do is whisper doubts, feed insecurities, and let them tear each other apart. Episode 4 is the perfect place for him to start doing exactly that. I think Cipher is going to zero in on Murray even harder. He already sees her potential. He told her she could surpass Homelander, and Cipher doesn't make comments like that without a plan. He wants Murray under his control, and the easiest way to do that is to drive her away from Jordan. He knows Jordan confessed their love, he knows Murray said it back, and he knows love is messy. Imagine Cipher twisting that, planting seeds of doubt in Murray's head, making her question whether Jordan's actions are selfish or if they're dragging her down. That's exactly how Cipher operates. He manipulates until his victims start destroying their own relationships. This is why episode 4 could mark the beginning of the Guardians' collapse, with Jordan likely sidelined and Murray slipping under Cipher's influence. Dima and Emma might be left scrambling to hold the group together. But here's the catch: Emma is already tangled up in her own problems with Harper, who's pushing her toward chaos and destruction. And Dima, while calm and logical, doesn't have the kind of presence needed to stop Cipher's manipulation head-on. By the time episode 4 ends, I wouldn't be surprised if the Guardians aren't just divided, they're completely fractured, each one walking their own path while Cipher sits back and pulls every string. But the division isn't just inside the Guardians. On a larger scale, we're going to see the Starlighters and the Supremacy group clash again. Harper made it clear she doesn't just want protests or painted messages. She wants chaos. She wants destruction. And Emma, standing there in that closing moment of episode 3, looked like she might just follow her down that road. If the Starlighters actually push for violence in episode 4, it could turn the Thomas Godolkin Day event into an absolute bloodbath. And if that happens, Vought will have all the justification they need to tighten their grip, crack down on students, and push their agenda of control. All of this tension builds toward one chilling reality. Episode 4 could be the start of a civil war on campus. Guardians against Guardians, Starlighters against Supremacy, Cipher against anyone who dares to resist him. The university was already unstable, but with every new revelation, it's becoming a battlefield. And the scariest part? Cipher doesn't even need to win with violence. He's winning with manipulation, control, and the promise of power. And Murray, without realizing it, could be his greatest weapon yet. If there's one storyline that feels like it's about to explode in episode 4, it's Murray's desperate search for her sister Annabeth. From the very beginning of season 2, we've seen how this quest has shaped Murray's every move. She's not just fighting to survive Godolkin's games. She's fighting for family. And in episode 3, when we learned Annabeth had been living with Aunt Pam but then mysteriously disappeared, that small detail opened the door to much darker possibilities. Because let's be honest, nobody just disappears at Godolkin without a reason. The first theory that makes the most sense is that Annabeth has been taken by Vought or Godolkin as part of Project Odessa. The timing feels too perfect. Murray is suddenly being pulled deeper into Odessa, just as she finds out about her sister's disappearance. That's not coincidence, that's design. Vought has never cared about morality, only results. And if Murray was the only surviving success story of the Odessa experiments, then why wouldn't they try again with someone who shares her DNA? Annabeth isn't just her sister, she's proof that whatever worked on Murray could work on someone else. If Vought wants to restart Odessa, Annabeth is the perfect candidate, but then there's the second, even darker theory: Annabeth might be inside Dean Cipher's vault. Remember how Cipher's obsession with Murray was clear from the first episode? He wasn't just curious, he was fixated. He wanted her found, he wanted her tested, and once she was back, he wanted her under his control. Cipher doesn't operate like a normal villain. He's not out in the open, fighting battles in the light. He hides his leverage, holds secrets close, and uses them at the exact right moment. And nothing would give him more leverage over Marie than holding Annabeth captive. Imagine the possibilities in episode 4 if Cipher reveals just a glimpse of that truth. Marie would be torn apart, caught between her love for Jordan, her loyalty to her friends, and her desperate need to protect Annabeth. Cipher could dangle Annabeth over her head like a sword, forcing her to fall in line, training her, manipulating her, and making her believe the only way to save her sister is by obeying him. That's Cipher's style. He doesn't just control people with fear. He controls them with love twisted into weakness. What makes this theory even scarier is that Cipher has already started grooming Marie to believe she's destined for greatness. He told her she could be stronger than Homelander. He made her believe her blood powers could be amplified. And if Marie buys into that, if she starts believing Cipher is the only one who understands her, then the sister she's searching for might become the very reason she loses herself. But there's another angle worth considering to what if Annabeth isn't in Cipher's control at all, but instead, she's been weaponized by Vought separately? What if episode 4 introduces her not as a victim but as another player in the game? That would be the cruelest twist of all. Marie spends the whole season searching for her sister, only to discover she's been reshaped, brainwashed, or transformed into a weapon against her. Imagine the heartbreak if Annabeth shows up not to be saved but to fight. Whichever path the writers choose, episode 4 feels like the moment where Annabeth's absence turns into presence. Whether it's a clue, a reveal, or just a whisper of her fate, it's the thread pulling Marie deeper into Cipher's grasp. And the cruel irony is that the harder she fights for her sister, the more vulnerable she becomes to the exact forces that stole Annabeth away in the first place. So when we ask the question, where is Annabeth? The truth is that her location might not matter as much as the effect her absence is already having. She's the ghost haunting every one of Marie's choices. And if Cipher really is holding her, then episode 4 might not just be about finding Annabeth, it might be about Marie realizing that saving her sister means losing herself. If there's one secret hanging over this entire season, it's Project Odessa. We know just enough about it to be terrified, but not enough to fully understand how deep it runs. And episode 4 feels like the moment when Odessa stops being a whispered threat and starts showing its true face. From the glimpses we've already gotten, Odessa isn't just some experiment gone wrong, it's a weapon. A weapon designed to create a new breed of soups, stronger, deadlier, and far more unstable than anything the world has ever seen. And the terrifying part? Marie is living proof that it can work. Back in the opening flashback from 1967, we saw the scientists working in that lab, surrounded by tubes of what looked like an advanced form of Compound V. Something went wrong. People died and the project was buried. But buried doesn't mean gone. Vought has a long history of hiding its failures until the time is right to try again. And this time, with Cipher running the show, Odessa isn't just about testing, it's about weaponizing. Cipher sees potential where others saw mistakes. He looks at Marie and doesn't just see a survivor. He sees the blueprint for an entirely new generation of soups. This is why Cipher's obsession with Marie feels so dangerous. He doesn't just want to train her, he wants to amplify her. He wants to prove that Odessa can succeed where it once failed. And if he can show that Marie isn't just powerful, but more powerful than even Homelander, then he can reshape the entire balance of power in the soup world. That's why his line about her being able to surpass Homelander wasn't just a compliment. It was a warning. Cipher isn't interested in equality, justice, or balance. He's interested in control. And Marie could become his ultimate weapon to achieve it. But here's where things get even darker. If Marie was the only subject who survived Odessa the first time, what happened to all the others? Were they killed? Locked away? Or are some of them still out there, hidden, broken, and waiting to be unleashed? Imagine if episode 4 reveals that Cipher has been keeping failed Odessa subjects in secret, using them as test cases, waiting for the right moment to release them. That would mean Marie isn't just fighting against Cipher's manipulation, she's fighting against the ghosts of Odessa itself. And then there's the question of what makes Odessa so different from normal Compound V. My theory is that Odessa wasn't about giving people powers. It was about creating something more extreme. The formula we saw looked volatile, almost unstable, like it wasn't meant to be injected casually. Maybe Odessa is designed to amplify powers to terrifying new levels, pushing soups beyond their natural limits. That would explain why most of the subjects died. It's too much power for most bodies to handle. But Marie, with her unique connection to blood, survived. She wasn't just lucky. She was the perfect match for Odessa's design. If that's true, then Cipher's plan becomes clear. He doesn't want just one Marie, he wants an army of them. An army of Odessa-enhanced soups who can't be controlled by morality or conscience, only by the person who holds the leash. And if episode 4 gives us even a glimpse of that, the stakes will skyrocket. Because suddenly, it's not just about Marie versus Cipher. It's about whether Godolkin and maybe the entire world can survive Odessa's rebirth. But here's the twist that keeps me up at night. What if Cipher isn't planning to use Odessa on new recruits at all? What if his plan is to rebuild existing soups with it? Imagine him approaching broken or desperate characters like Kate, who's lost her powers, and offering Odessa as the solution. A second chance. A way to come back stronger than ever. That's Cipher's perfect strategy. Take someone at their lowest, offer them power, and make them believe they owe him everything. Kate could be the ideal candidate for this in episode 4, stripped of her abilities, isolated, mourning, and desperate. She's exactly the kind of person Cipher could lure back into Odessa's grip. So when we think about Project Odessa, it's not just a background plot device, it's the heart of Season 2. It's the key to understanding Cipher, Marie's destiny, and the coming war on campus. And in episode 4, I think we'll finally see the first step of Odessa's rebirth. Not as history, but as the nightmare that's about to define the future. If there's one character who feels like she's standing on the edge of a complete breakdown, it's Kate. Her story in Season 2 has been nothing but tragedy layered with manipulation. She's lost Andre, the one person who grounded her. She's been cast out by her friends, who attacked her and left her for dead. Her powers, once the very thing that made her dangerous, are gone. And now, she's wandering through the season like a ghost who doesn't even recognize herself. That scene where she looked in the mirror, almost unable to believe the reflection staring back, that wasn't just about grief. That was about identity crumbling. Kate's arc is fascinating because she embodies what Cipher thrives on: brokenness. He doesn't need someone whole. In fact, he prefers them shattered. Kate has every reason to feel useless, disposable, and empty, and Cipher knows that. His words to her that without her powers she's no better than a human weren't casual insults. They were poison. They were designed to sink deep, to make Kate desperate for validation, desperate to matter again. And desperation is the perfect soil for Cipher's manipulation. This is why episode 4 could mark a turning point for Kate. She has two paths in front of her. She can either claw her way back toward her friends, rebuilding her strength without Cipher, or she can give in to the voice that tells her she's nothing unless she regains her power. And if Cipher tempts her with Project Odessa offering her strength, a return to relevance, even the chance for revenge, it might be too much for her to resist. But here's the twist: revenge might not be the clean, satisfying closure Kate thinks she wants. What happens when you've been betrayed by everyone, when your grief eats you alive, when your powers vanish and the only hand reaching out to you is Cipher's? Revenge stops being about justice. It becomes about destruction. Kate doesn't just want to punish people, she might start wanting to burn everything down. That's the dangerous mindset Cipher can twist into a weapon. And let's not forget, Kate isn't just another student at Godolkin. She's been one of the most manipulative players in the game since Season 1, even without her powers. She knows how to get inside people's heads. Pair that natural instinct with Cipher's promises of Odessa-enhanced abilities, and suddenly you're looking at a version of Kate who's not only back in the game, but more dangerous than ever. She could become Cipher's perfect recruit, not because she's loyal, but because she's angry. Anger blinds, anger fuels, and anger destroys. And Cipher could point that destruction wherever he wants. But revenge is a double-edged sword. Kate's story might not end with her destroying her enemies. It might end with her destroying herself. Episode 4 could give us the first signs of that unraveling: a confrontation where her pain spills over, or a moment where she lashes out not just at Cipher, but at the friends who abandoned her. She could end up driving a deeper wedge between herself and Marie, which would only strengthen Cipher's control over both of them. What makes Kate's arc so unpredictable is that she's both a victim and a threat. On one hand, you feel for her. She's grieving, she's lost, she's human in her pain. On the other hand, that same pain could turn her into a weapon more dangerous than any Odessa subject. And that duality, sympathy and fear, is exactly what makes her one of the most compelling characters this season. So the question heading into episode 4 isn't just whether Kate will get revenge, it's what form that revenge will take. Will it be a violent outburst against Cipher? A betrayal of her old friends? Or the ultimate twist, aligning with Cipher, even temporarily, just to feel powerful again? Any of those outcomes would fit her current state. And whichever path she chooses, one thing feels certain: Kate's story is going to bring destruction. Whether to others, herself, or both. Episode 4 might not give us the full payoff yet, but it will almost certainly show us the first cracks widening into something much larger. Kate is the powder keg. Cipher is the match. And once those two connect, it won't just be revenge, it'll be war. Amid all the manipulation, secrets, and looming threats, there's another storyline quietly building in the background: Emma's. On the surface, Her arc might look smaller compared to Marie's or Kate's, but episode 4 could prove that her choices carry just as much weight in shaping where this season goes. Because when you're living in a world where friendships fracture, loyalties collapse, and every truth is a lie, romance doesn't stay simple. It becomes another battlefield. Emma has been spiraling since the death of Andre, unlike the others, who've chosen their own coping mechanisms. Marie throwing herself into her mission, Jordan lashing out publicly, Kate collapsing under her grief. Emma's path has been more subtle but no less dangerous. She's drifting, vulnerable, and looking for something or someone to fill that emptiness. And in episode 3, we saw the first signs of a new connection, that mysterious student who showed her kindness. It might have seemed small, but in a world like Godolkin, kindness can be the most dangerous hook of all. The idea of Emma starting a new romance is complicated, because it's not just about her, it's about Sam too. There was a time when Sam loved Emma, and that bond still lingers in his heart even as he tries to steady himself without Kate's influence. But now, imagine Sam watching Emma pull away, watching her find comfort in someone else, watching her build a connection that doesn't include him. For someone as unstable as Sam, that isn't just painful, it's explosive. Episode 4 could easily push him into a spiral where jealousy mixes with grief, and suddenly his fragile progress begins to crumble. This triangle, Emma, her potential new romance, and Sam, adds another layer of tension to the chaos already boiling on campus. Because Emma's choices won't exist in isolation. If she leans into this new romance, it could deepen Sam's isolation, making him even more unpredictable. And unpredictability is exactly what Cipher feeds on. He doesn't just look for cracks in teams. He looks for cracks in individuals. If Sam lashes out, if he loses control, Cipher won't need to create division. The Guardians will do it for him. But Emma's story isn't only about romance. It's about identity and loyalty. She's torn between the pull of Harper, who pushes her toward chaos and destruction, and the possibility of a new bond that might offer comfort. Both paths are dangerous. If she follows Harper, she becomes part of the Supremacy's violent rebellion, adding fuel to a civil war on campus. If she falls for someone new, she risks breaking Sam further, leaving him vulnerable to Cipher's whispers or even pushing him to align with the Supremacy. Out of rage, either choice fractures the group even more, and either choice plays directly into the hands of the people who want to see Godolkin burn. And then there's the bigger picture. Emma's love life might seem like a side plot compared to Project Odessa, but in stories like these, it's often the personal that shapes the political. A broken heart, a betrayal, or even the simple act of finding comfort in the wrong person can set off a chain reaction. Imagine Sam spiraling out of control, caught between grief for Kate, jealousy over Emma, and his own fragile sense of self. Imagine Emma, torn between Harper's chaos and her own desire for stability, unknowingly setting herself up for heartbreak or manipulation. Put those two unstable hearts into the same storm as Cipher's schemes and Odessa's rebirth, and you don't just get drama, you get disaster. By the time episode 4 ends, don't be surprised if Emma's quiet choices erupt into loud consequences. Whether it's Sam lashing out, Emma losing herself, or Harper pulling her further into chaos, the fallout will ripple through the Guardians. Because in Godolkin, even love isn't safe. Every bond can be broken, every relationship can be weaponized, and every choice carries a cost. So when we step into episode 4, keep your eye on Emma. She might not be the strongest, the loudest, or the most dangerous on the surface, but her story is the thread that could unravel everything. Love in this world doesn't heal, it destroys. And in the middle of Cipher's games, Project Odessa's shadow, and the Guardians' crumbling unity, Emma's heart could be the spark that lights the fire no one can put out. When you look at everything happening in Godolkin right now, it feels like a storm building in slow motion. At first, it was just grief, scattered arguments, hidden agendas, but now, each piece is snapping into place, and the bigger picture is becoming terrifyingly clear. Episode 4 might be the breaking point where all these threads collide, not just in personal drama, but in a war that no one is ready to face. Marie is digging deeper into Project Odessa, chasing shadows and risking her own neck against Vought's most dangerous secrets. Jordan is out in the open, becoming a symbol whether they want it or not, putting a giant target on their back. Kate is hanging by a thread, her guilt making her more of a liability than a leader. Emma is playing with fire in her heart, and Sam is teetering on the edge of collapse. And through all of this, Cipher isn't rushing. He's patient. He's waiting. Because he doesn't need to create the storm, the Guardians are already doing that to themselves. All Cipher has to do is choose the moment to strike, and let's not forget Harper. She isn't just a side character anymore, she's a ticking time bomb. Her push toward chaos, her whispers about burning down the system, they're not just rhetoric. They're seeds. Seeds that can turn an unstable student body into an army overnight. If Cipher chooses to align with her, or even just let her do his dirty work, then by episode 4 we might see the first sparks of something massive. A supremacy rising against Vought. Against the system, against anyone who stands in their way. But here's the real danger. The Guardians, fractured and unstable, are still the only ones standing between Godolkin and complete collapse. And right now, they don't even trust each other. Cipher knows that. Vought knows that. Harper knows that. And every move in episode 4 is going to test just how far these students can be pushed before they break. Because once they do, it won't just be about Godolkin anymore, it'll spill into the larger world. Straight into the crosshairs of the Seven and straight into the chaos of the boys' universe. Imagine Cipher finally revealing a piece of his hand. Imagine Harper pulling students into violent action. Imagine Sam losing control, Jordan doubling down, and Murray uncovering a truth so big it shakes everything we thought we knew about Vought. That's the scale episode 4 is setting up. Not just campus drama, but the opening shots of a war no one sees coming. So if you thought the Guardians were just fighting for survival, think again. They're fighting for the future of Supes themselves. And right now, every secret, every betrayal, every broken heart is pushing them closer to a war they can't escape. Episode 4 won't be about answers, it'll be about consequences. And those consequences might just change the world of Gen V forever.